Hello and welcome to this latest edition of Seconds Count, the episode that brings you behind the scenes of the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service. In recent weeks, we have spoken with some people who are actively involved in the service and how we deliver it for our patients. But being part of the ambulance service is almost like being part of a family. You know, you spend so many hours and so many days with the people that you're working with that a career within the ambulance service can be long, it can be distinguished. But like all good things, it really does have to come to an end at some stage, and people have to retire, no matter how much they don't really want to. Recently, in the past 5, 6 years, we've set up a retirement association to allow staff who would have seen each other on a regular basis at hospitals or actually in their stations to come together for day trips and to meet with each other. Today, we're going to talk to one of the members of the committee of the Retirement Association, Aidan Early. Aidan, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Sean, for the opportunity.
Thanks for taking the time to come in. I know you're a very busy man, but you are one of those people who give a long time service to the ambulance service. But like every other episode that we have had, what I want to know is, how did you join us? What was your background?
Well, um, I wanted to be in the ambulance service from I was 7 years old.
Seriously?
Yeah, where I originally grew up in Coal Island, the road that our house sort of backed onto. At that age, there seemed to be a road traffic accident on it every night. But if there were any walking wounded, my father would have went out and brought them into our back kitchen, a cup of tea and a cigarette back then, probably. But the crew would have to come in then to get those individuals. And I can remember standing looking at these boys. And back then it would have been the trench coat, the silver buttons, the peak cap, the formal uniform. And I can remember thinking, yeah, that's what I want to do. Now, who those two people were would have been John Pat O'Donnell and Ivan Greenaway.
And you actually remember that?
Yeah.
Goodness, it's good.
And I had the good fortune to work with those two guys at some point in my career as well. So it all came around.
And did you
full
recount that
circle.
story to them?
I don't know if I did. I don't know if I would have had the nerve to actually speak to those two guys, but I would have been very, very junior at that time. They
Right.
would have been very approachable. I know that. But
So I'm hoping that at Christmas times, instead of the big red fire engines, you got wee ambulance cars.
yeah,
That sort of thing.
probably. Yeah.
You know, well,
Yeah.
that's a very early stage at which you wanted to join
Yeah.
the service, but obviously you weren't able to join the service
No,
at that
I
age.
sort of went
you know.
off track a little bit and come back and worked in South Tyrone X-ray, which again back then it still is. It's right beside what would have been the emergency department, now minor injuries. So again, part of my duty would have been to assist the radiographer who was called into the NE with the portable X-ray machine and things like that. So I was coming into contact that way, and the crews would have been there, and I might have stood back and had a bit of a chat, and that rekindled
Yeah,
the interest.
yeah. And how then did you move from the X-ray department to the ambulance
I
service?
applied. Now, I applied twice.
Right.
The first time I applied, I didn't have a driving license, but I applied anyway.
Right. Okay. That was
What I thought would happen, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then eventually got the driving license and made the second application. Went through that whole process, which is probably more complicated now. It felt like a lifetime to actually get to the point where you were standing on day one down on the beaches. But
And what was that? What was day one like? Can you remember? Because if you can remember what it was like when you're 7 years of age, you're bound to remember what it was like
well,
on the beaches for the first time.
I remember being really excited and thinking, "Wow, I'm here." I think originally there was probably 9 on that course. Ended up there was only 4 of us at the end of it. But there was actually a paramedic course on at the same time. So again, we were in awe. Well, I was in particular in awe of these guys who were sitting around, who I thought were like gods. But
What
I,
age were
I
you
know
at
some of the
what age were
guys
you at that stage?
at that stage. I would have been 20, 21.
So
22.
at 7, you want to join the ambulance service.
Yeah,
Your
14
first day at
years later.
21 years of age, right? I'm in the ambulance service, and I want to be a paramedic. You
Yeah,
know, man, you had some desire to keep
yeah,
going,
yeah,
hadn't you?
yeah.
Now the beaches for the people who don't understand was the training centre that we used for
Yes,
all our in-house courses for many
yes.
many years.
Uh-huh.
People have very mixed memories of the beaches,
Uh-huh, I do.
and I'm sure the 5 people who didn't get through the course would have a different view
Well, those
on how.
I can remember those people were all from East, and they were all originally PCS or
Right?
PCS,
Yeah, it was
Patient
PCS,
Transport, PTS,
patient care service.
who really didn't want. I think they were pushed forward because the numbers were so low on that course,
Right.
and they really didn't want to be there,
Oh,
so
well, that's
they
not so bad. At least
voluntarily
they were able
backed
to
out.
go back to the PCS duties
Yes,
and have a
yeah,
career within the ambulance service that they wished.
yeah,
Okay,
and I can
so
remember worrying that with only 4 of us, would they actually continue?
uh,
'Cause we had all left jobs
yeah,
to actually go to the training, and we were well, I was in fear of what they call the course off because they wouldn't have enough numbers, but they went
yeah,
ahead with it.
right. And you finished that course. How did you find that? What was it? 6 weeks? No, it wouldn't have been 6 weeks that
Was it
time. It
12
was
or
12 at
yeah,
that
probably
time. Yeah.
12. Yeah, maybe
And
even more. 16? No.
was it residential for you?
It was residential,
How
yeah.
did you find that
Oh, it was
moving
a
away from the
nightmare.
family?
Nightmare. I was only just married. It was crazy.
Uh-huh.
To just be married and 3 or 4 months later, you're not at home.
But then 3 or 4 months later, you're qualified
You're home
EMT.
again, yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
that was
Oh,
great. As
there
you
was
look
a
back, it's the
reward.
blink of an eye. But I understand
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
when you're
yeah.
sitting on it, you'll be counting the weeks off maybe
Uh-huh,
to get back
uh-huh. Oh, it
home,
was a long week. It
and
was a
your
long week.
wife would have been counting the weeks off as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Well, and you get through the course fine.
Well, I'll get through
You
it.
get through it. You get through the course. And where then were you stationed?
First station was Kilkeel.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
and you were living in Pull Island,
Living in Moy at that time.
you living in Moy. Yeah,
So
still a fair old hike.
it was still a bit of a journey to get through Armagh and through
Yeah,
Newry to get to
yeah.
Kilkeel. But um I loved it. I was only there 6 months. I loved Kilkeel.
How was the busyness of the station in those
It
days?
wasn't that it was that busy.
Hmm.
It's probably a hell of a lot more busy now. But it wasn't that. But I seem to learn an awful lot in Kilkeel. When I look back at it, I always think back to Kilkeel about attitude and the way I think or the way I thought about what I was doing. And that seems to all go back to Kilkeel.
Hmm.
Like me and another, the other guy that was from the south, both ended up as trainees in Kilkeel. Everybody else was so much more experienced than we were. Um,
And what was that ethos that they
I don't
gave to you?
know. I don't know. I just felt as if that and it probably was the same in every station, but they were all local men.
Mm.
And when a call come in, they treated it as if it was one of their own they were going out to. And that brushed off on me. And then there was a couple of little ingots of advice
Yeah,
that would always come through. I always think of it as a bit of a university for me.
yeah.
Um,
University of Life.
yeah, little things. I can remember one call that, in your training, they tell you what to do and they tell you how the symptoms and the treatment and things like that there. But they don't actually sort of relate what it's going to be like. So I can remember at the end of one call speaking to somebody and saying, "Is this what it's going to be like from now? Is this what happens? Is this the things that?" And they looked at me and said, "Aidan, you're going to have to realize that these people, meaning the patient, is out to ruin your day. Don't let them surprise you by what they're going to do next. Always be on your toes. Try to be a step ahead of them. That's not taught in your training.
Yeah.
That's
But the
coming
patient's
from
not
someone.
deliberately going to ruin
Oh
your
no,
day.
no, no, no.
It's what's going on in their life at that moment in time,
Yes,
which makes them act
yes,
perhaps a little bit
and the idea
different from what they would do
that
normally.
nothing is black and white.
Nothing.
Everything changes.
That's right.
Even something as straightforward as doing repeated observations, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That was all taught there.
Yeah. I remember in the beaches myself. I made a comment one day and I got bawled out for it. And it says, because there's a lot of new guys in that have never worked anywhere near the
Yeah,
ambulance service. And well, I found it difficult. It is a difficult course. And I said one day, but you don't understand. These people won't really know this job until they're out doing it. I was flipping. You'll know this job before you leave here or you not leave here. And I went, okay, let's move on to the next one, please.
yeah, yeah.
But then you were in Kilkeel for a while. How long was that?
It was only about 6 months.
6 months. Where did you
I
move
had the
to?
transfer in almost straight away to get to Armagh,
Hmm.
which would have been a lot handier for me. So 6 months, somebody I think someone retired. I think it might have been Eugene Smith, God rest him, retired, and that opened up a space there.
Yeah.
So
Armagh would have been a busier station, wouldn't it?
Armagh was busier.
But the difference in what I found in working in rural areas as opposed to working in urban areas,
Mm,
where you may do more calls
yeah,
in the rural areas, you're with a
longer.
patient traveling to the hospital much
Yeah,
longer and giving that care for a
yeah,
much longer period
yeah,
of time,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And in Armagh, the nearest hospital would be Craigavon, and
Craigavon
it's
or
not,
Daisy
or
Hill,
Daisy Hill,
yeah, would have been
you
the
know.
two main.
Yeah. And how
Yeah.
do you find the Armagh people then? Because
Well,
as
being
you
from Tyrone, it was hard. Um,
it would have been,
it was
you know,
difficult.
did you keep it quiet that you were from Tyrone?
No.
No, so you get plenty of stick, you know.
Well, there's always a bit of banter.
I know, yeah, but
Um,
patients are patients, right?
Patience are patience.
And you
But it was nice again in the sense that um, it it took nearly all your career to get to know people
mhm,
in that area.
yeah,
So even though you were going out, there were still people that you didn't know, which again kind of makes it easier. You
yeah.
can be more clinical in your response to people. But no, I enjoyed Armagh. I
So,
really enjoyed the staff and
and how long were you in
the crowd.
Armagh for?
You keep asking me years and
Years,
things. I don't know, would it have been 17, 18 years?
18 years there,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Um, During that 18 years, was there ever a time you sat and thought to yourself, for a prolonged period of time, because obviously we'll all sit and go, "Oh, I wish I'd done something else," but were you bought into the job? Was it what that 7-year-old looking up, you know, was it what you thought it would be?
Probably was. Probably
When you
was.
look back
Although,
retrospectively.
I can remember on some calls going out to them and thinking, "Why didn't I just go for a wee job in the civil service?"
Yeah, yeah,
But once you hit the scene, no, I loved it.
you
I
loved
loved
it.
it. I loved every minute of it. Loved every aspect of it.
What was the thing you loved most about it?
I think being in a position where in a situation that tested you,
Mhm,
that again tested your capability to think. You had the structure of training, absolutely, but to be thrown into a situation which is really abnormal,
mhm.
and to be able to work your way through, to calm people enough with you with just your words and your presence, so that they can actually then
Allow you into
express
their
what's
space.
wrong with
Yeah,
them, so that then you can set about helping them.
yeah.
And I know it's a bit airy fairy and a bit, but yeah, that
But it's
ability to be
real.
able to
It's
help
real.
people is
Yeah,
something that's very precious. And
yeah, and that's real. That's not very fairy. That's real.
mm.
Can you remember your first call?
Yeah, first couple, I don't think it can.
You don't
No,
think you could?
no,
No,
I can't really remember that many calls.
no.
I'll be honest.
Oh, that's fine.
I can remember things in Kilkee.
Uh-huh.
I can remember one of the other trainee was a fella, Trevor Carson. Some of the viewers maybe know Trevor. And the old station in Kilkee was the gatehouse of the old hospital,
Yeah,
which was right beside the barracks, the police station. And me and Trevor were kicking a ball up and down the drive, and the ball went over
on your rest period.
on our rest period and went over the fence into the police station. And we had to go and knock on the door and ask
Yeah.
for our ball back.
Oh, dear me.
That's the kind of
Yeah,
thing I
yeah,
remember.
yeah. But in terms of actually being out on the road, then obviously there were times that you did make a difference. You made a huge difference to somebody.
Ah, well,
When
everybody in this job has made a difference to somebody, but yeah, you
what
can't deny.
but how's the feeling when you know you've made a difference?
Um, I don't know if I sat down and thought, yeah, I've made a difference there.
Yeah.
But
You're a very
probably
modest
the
man.
skills. Oh well, do you
You
know,
are very modest. Okay, well, put it like this. Here's another question for you then.
I'll say this. I can remember being on with a crewmate who I was with for a long time, and it wasn't long after the paramedic training, and we got a woman who had had very severe asthmatic attack. She was on the verge of collapse, and when we arrived, she was on the floor. She had fallen between the bed and the wall of the bedroom, and there was no point trying to nebulize her, so it was straight in um, with the adrenaline at that stage, and that pulled her back. And I can remember him saying to me that if I don't think he meant me, but if I hadn't been there as a paramedic, that wouldn't have had the same outcome. And that's when it kind of struck me what you're actually doing
Yeah, but he didn't mean you.
in the
He
job.
didn't mean you. You're such a
But,
modest man.
do you know what I mean?
Well, let's
It's
go to the other extreme. Calls that weren't so successful.
mm,
Well, fatalities.
mm.
How do you cope with those?
Again, I don't know if I did cope with them.
Mhm.
I'll be honest. There wouldn't have been the mechanism probably that there is now for staff with peer support and things like that. That you were really relying on your ability to maybe talk to other people. I made a vow that I wouldn't take it home with me.
Mhm.
Um,
And were you able to do that?
no, no,
Mm,
no. I tried, but you do carry things with you, of course you do.
yeah.
And I don't think I coped with them at the time. And now, since retirement, I always describe retirement as being a quiet time, and that's when your mind starts to think back on things, to dwell on things. Me and my wife had to go somewhere there on Saturday evening, and I drove past the house. I had never been on the road for years, and I drove past the house where there'd been a call, and it came back to me.
Just come
I'd never
back.
thought of it before.
Just
It'd
come back.
never been. So it's that kind of when you're in the job, there's always the next one that
Yeah.
you're going to,
Yeah.
and I think when you're young too, you sort of feel more robust and more capable, and what's the problem kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but
But
certainly in my experience since I've retired, things have. This is when I would need help,
well,
or maybe in even 3 4 years ago.
yeah, but there are a lot of locked memories
Mm.
that are
Probably
being
stuff
unlocked.
that
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about that
Yeah.
that are there
And it won't
that
come.
don't occur to me.
And I'll come back to that in a minute or two because I'm interested in how retirement association helps you in terms of that.
Mm.
So you were on the road then in Armagh.
Mhm.
Um, was a significant event in your life then.
There was, yeah,
What
yeah.
was that?
Um, I had a cancer diagnosis in the summer of 2011, and that kind of started off with a pain in what I would describe as my groin, but it was actually in the joint of the hip between the cup of the pelvis and the head of the femur. It turned out to be a sarcoma, bone
So
osteosarcoma.
when you got the news of the cancer diagnosis, how did that impact upon you?
Um, it took a wee while for them to do it without prolonging this here. It took a while for them to do it because it turned out that it was a primary at that site.
Hmm.
There was no secondary. The surgery was going to have to be done in Birmingham at the orthopedic hospital there. So there was a lot of communication back and forward. People insisting that this can't be it. So there was quite a while before it was diagnosed. Um,
How
but
are you coping in that period of time with
whilst
the
that was going
diagnosis?
on, I don't know, maybe your brain does sort of protect you. I can remember um, a consultant coming when I eventually got into the hospital saying, "We're going to leave no stone unturned here, Mr. Early." And I thought, "Yeah, of course you're not. What, why are you even telling me that? What
Yeah,
are you talking about?"
yeah,
Or one of the nurses coming, taking me off the ward down into an office and saying to me, "If we have anything bad to tell you, do you want somebody here?"
yeah.
And I'm thinking, what are you going to be telling me? What? I think your brain kind of does that. It shuts you away a wee bit sometimes. The first time it actually dawned on me what was going on, that I was aware fully of what was happening, was when the consultant actually gave us the diagnosis. And then even then, I don't know if it was a shock.
Hmm.
It wasn't a surprise. The problem was that my wife's sister had passed away um, very recently prior to that, with sarcoma, but it was soft tissue. And my first thought was kind of, God, this woman has to go through this again, kind of thing. And then I looked at him and I said, I have nothing planned for the near future. When do we get started? And that was the kind of attitude that I had from that point on. There
What?
were, there were obviously there were a lot of low moments,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of attitude I
Hmm.
tried to maintain.
So what age were you when you got that diagnosis?
Let's see, 42.
It's very young.
Yeah, 42
Yeah.
when that started,
And
yeah.
you mentioned earlier that you tried very hard not to bring the job home with you,
Mm,
but the day you got the diagnosis, it must have come home with you
Oh,
that
it has
night.
to you can't leave that behind
Yeah,
you, that has to carry that has to go home. But again, our kids were quite young at that stage. The oldest boy was 16, the youngest boy was 10. You know, there's you can't, that they don't have to live with your worries, your concerns. So you have to sort of every day has to be a normal day.
yeah, well, they were,
Yeah,
they were,
not initially. No,
yeah,
I can remember when we sat and told them because then the chemo they're going to start to see the effects of
mhm,
it.
yeah.
And I can remember we sat and told them, and the youngest boy after we had said it, um, and we said, guys, have you any questions? And there was a bit of silence, and then the youngest boy he came over and he says, "Are United going to win the league this year?"
And
You
you
know,
went, I want one miracle, I want two, right?
so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you hear people saying that things do grind you, bring you back down, and there it
And
is.
that was great. That was absolutely brilliant to be able to
Mm,
get that, just breaking that
yeah.
whole worry because, you're such a modest man, but I know from this moment, talking to you these few moments, you would have been very worried about how they were going to react,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know?
Because my mother died when I was very young.
Hmm.
In fact, um, yeah, our middle lad was the same age as me
Yeah.
when my mother passed away.
Yeah.
And again, and that's not what the talk's about, but that had a massive effect on me. And
Yeah.
again, that was always in the back of my head.
Yeah.
These young lads that were going to have to maybe
So do you mind if I talk a wee bit about the treatment? How you were during the treatment?
treatment. The chemo started on the 5th of September. And I can remember the oncologist saying to me that because it was such a rare cancer to begin with, because it was so rare, in that it was so aggressive, it was rare because it was in my age, and it was rare because there were no secondaries. That this was the primary. This was it. That she was going to hit me with the same amount of chemo that somebody half my age would get. And I says, whatever you have to do, get on with. I think I said to her, maybe not at that occasion, but if you have anything experimental you want to try,
Yeah.
I'm your man. Get stuck in.
Mhm.
And I know it sounds very blasé and very. I wouldn't sort of say everybody that you should have that kind of
No.
attitude. It was just the way I felt.
Yeah. And during that time, you obviously weren't in your work. Were you worried about how this is going to impact upon work?
Not at that point. No,
Yeah.
no, not at that point. This was more. We need to get this sorted out, and whatever comes after that comes after that. But I had no intention of leaving. It was never. It was never a thought that I was gonna.
And did you become worried about whether it's going to impact upon your work? And
It would have been more the surgery
hmm
side of it because the surgery. When we first went over, it would have been the first time that the surgeon actually saw me. I can remember when he walked into the room. Michelle was sitting on the visitor's chair, and I was sort of sitting up on the bed, and he come in, and I kind of jumped off the bed and walked over, met him halfway, and shook his hand. And I didn't see it, but Michelle said the surprise in his face um, was quite evident. Um, he had been looking at imaging and stuff prior to that, but he started to explain the surgery, and at one point said, "Aidan, you probably won't walk again." It was going to be that drastic. And I put him over it again. He had drawn me diagrams, we sort of um, very basic anatomical things to show me what they were going to remove. And I'm thinking, no, that's not what I had in mind. But I says to him, is there a plan B? And he sort of went, no. Well, I says, well, then plan A it is.
so,
But that's when it first started to the physicality of what was going on.
mhm. So when you get that advice from the surgeon, you're probably not going to walk again. Were you, well, that's going to be it, or well, no, I'm going to push through
At
this,
that
and I'm going to
at
be
that
sure I walk
point,
again.
initially, yeah,
Yeah.
that was in my head. That was it over. But what happened then was that I was prepped for 9 o'clock the next day, and 9 o'clock came and went, and 10 o'clock came and went, and 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. The ward sister come in, and I never questioned it, never out because there's always somebody, there's always a priority,
Hmm.
and somebody's having maybe getting something done that can't wait. But at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the surgeon come back in. Um, and this guy was massive. He was a big, big guy, originally from Nigeria. And he sat down the edge of the bed and he said, "Aidan, I have done nothing but think about you all night." And and he started then to say that they were going to postpone the surgery. That two of the surgeons there, Professor Grimer and I can't remember the other fella's name, had been in Japan purchasing and getting trained on a new piece of equipment that would make surgery like this more accurate, so that the cuts and the removal of bone and muscle would not be as excessive. Now, I think they had only done it on one other person at that point in the UK, and that if I was happy to go ahead with it, they were keen to have another patient under another notch on their
Yeah,
bedpost.
sure, yeah.
And I says, "Listen, whatever, just do whatever you have to do. Like, but there's no point me sitting debating it."
Yeah.
Um, so he started to explain that the idea was more. He used the analogy of sat nav, that the computer was able then to say where the cut should take place. Probably again, instead of just eyeballing it and cutting it
Yeah.
there, that
Yeah.
was all kind of. But the good news that he was able to tell me was that the tumor had reduced. But the problem is that the bone that it had been in was like glass, and this is why they were having to remove so much. But it wasn't going to be as drastic as it was. But he still says, "Don't expect to be walking too well."
Why
But
should
then I started to think, well, hold on a minute. This is,
mm.
I've done, I have the kind of,
The resilience.
yeah, and again, you might understand this here from the football. I can remember when I was on the tens, um, somebody hit me or I was bowled over or something, and I stood up, started rubbing my knee where it was sore. And my father had been there watching it, and he said to me after the game, "Don't let people see you hurt, man, because they'll only go after you even more."
Yeah.
So that kind of attitude was there that I wasn't even aware of at the
Yeah.
time. That you tell me you can't walk, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
It's amazing.
Don't put any money on it. That
So
was
then
the
what happened after the surgery?
surgery. Then with all the rehab that went with it, um, I can remember standing up the day after the surgery with the physios. I can remember walking for him 2 days after it. By the end of that first week was with crutches round the ward, and 2 or 3 days into the second week was up and down the stairs with the crutches.
And what were the doctors saying? Were they amazed?
Yeah. Uh,
But
the surgeon actually had come in the second day and said, "You're not gonna walk again."
yeah,
And I says to him the week after 2 weeks, I said, "I'm walking." And he says, "You mightn't work again." And that was at that point, that
mhm,
was a red rag.
right.
That was not gonna happen.
You'd want to work again.
I am gonna get back to it.
And how long were you out?
And I don't think it's the word work. It wasn't gonna stop me being a paramedic again.
Yeah, yeah.
That
And
was it. That's
and that's
work.
because
If I had been, um, my brother-in-law is a bricklayer, and there's no way I could do what he does.
mhm,
I couldn't physically do that.
yeah,
And if somebody said to me, "You'll not work again," and I had a bricklayer, I'm thinking, "What fucking class? No way am I doing that again." I loved being a paramedic.
fuck yeah, and that's
You
so
know what I
lovely,
mean?
you know.
I could not imagine not putting that uniform on and not going. So when he said that, I don't know, maybe he said it deliberately, I don't know, but that wasn't going to happen.
You know,
I can remember sitting, I had to go back over for 2 weeks of intensive physiotherapy in Birmingham again, and I brought all my books over with me.
amazing. Was it a smooth ride getting back in?
No,
What
it
happened?
wasn't. No, again, this probably hadn't been seen before. It probably hadn't been come across before. But I can remember occupational health sitting looking at the imaging and not looking at me telling me all the things that I could not do physically. And when they were finished, I said, "Well, hold on a second, go back through that list." And everything he said I couldn't do, I got down on the floor and did it. Whether it was in the position for CPR or crouching or kneeling or getting up or whatever it was he asked me to do, I did it after him saying I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
So in my head, I was capable, not only
I don't
from
think anything was ever going to stop you. The determination that you had when somebody told you you weren't going to walk again, and yet you were walking at that occupational health appointment.
I walked
Um,
in, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
somebody's telling you you're not going to do this.
yeah.
Your determination would have
I think,
driven you through that.
yeah, I think what annoyed me most that day was that he never looked at me when he was telling me this. He was looking at the imaging from the surgery,
Yeah, yeah,
and rightly so. If you saw the X-rays, you would
yeah,
think, "Who is no, this? Is not going to happen."
right. So,
Um,
what was the message coming out of that meeting
the message for him or for me?
from the appointment?
Oh well, there was nothing resolved then.
Mhm,
He had to go back and rethink. But I had already applied for rapid response. There were certain things I knew that would be an issue.
yeah,
For example, lifting stretchers and
hmm,
maybe a carry chair downstairs and things like that. Obviously, I knew that would be the potentially that could be a problem because there is limited movement
yeah,
at that joint and the pain that has been there constantly. But and it's not that I saw rapid response as light duties; it was never classed as that. But I thought, well, if I'm not lifting as much, maybe there's a chance there. So I had applied for it and got through the interview process and was accepted on to rapid response and did it for maybe a year, 14 months,
yeah.
something like that.
Just for people from the public who don't understand rapid response, it's you as a
Yes, you're
lone
on.
worker in a car,
Yeah, yeah,
getting out to the seriously ill, injured,
yeah.
and working with our double
With
crewed ambulances.
yes, with the onus on transport
Yeah, yeah.
on the bigger crew.
As you, how did you, how did you find the switch from having a crewmate to being a lone worker?
It was really odd. That
Uh,
was really odd because as you mentioned the word teamwork and working as a team, and here for a large part of the day you were on your own. It was a bit of a test in some ways, in the sense that you had nobody to turn to,
yes,
that you had to sort of make the decisions yourself
yeah.
and not have that backup. But
But when you balance it to what the alternative could have been,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
there was no, there was,
I know you would have been grateful. You know,
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
you know.
Oh, the morning I put that uniform back on and sat in the car, well, even walking in the station with the uniform on was class.
I'm sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'm nearly busting myself here thinking about it. Just the emotion that must have been in there that written you off, and there you were coming
Uh,
back in. You'd proved them wrong, and you were going to go
yeah,
and do your best for yourself. But because you're doing your best for yourself, you're doing your absolute best for patients as well. And
absolutely,
I
yeah, yeah,
just think
yeah,
this is amazing.
yeah.
So you didn't stay with RRV?
No, unfortunately, and I always told myself that if, and this is going to sound very extreme, but if I felt I was a danger to others and myself, then I would be big enough to stand up and say it's over. And it kind of got to that point with our RV where, from a psychological point of view, there was a call in a house where a young man had collapsed, and it was quite a small front room. His partner, his girlfriend, was there. And whilst I was dealing with them, 3 or 4 other lads come in as friends. Now there was no aggression or no sense of I was in any danger there. It
Yeah.
wasn't that. But it kind of occurred to me at that moment when I looked up and saw how small this room was and how difficult it would be for me to get to the exit and and how because of the restraints that I'm under now with the after the surgery, how I physically could not even possibly maybe defend myself
Hmm.
in that kind of situation. That did start to prey on my mind, and it became a consideration on every call that I went out to after that. Am I going to be okay here?
So what did you do?
Um, I kept going, and then there was an incident where when I got into a position to deal with somebody, and the crew arrived and that patient had left the scene. I was still left. I couldn't move to get out of the position that I got into. So there from the physical point of view. So those two things, the psychological thing, which was starting to eat away at me, and then the physical thing, which was probably a realer thing that I could maybe relate to better. Those two things sort of made the decision that I couldn't do rapid response anymore. That that I had probably lost that ability to do frontline work.
And what did you do then?
I honestly can't remember, John, if I applied for Halo myself or if I was sort of, um, if I was, what's the word I'm looking for? If it was something, an option that the
Was
service
get
gave me,
presented to you? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that they said, here,
Now,
apply for this.
Halo is an hospital ambulance liaison
Liaison
officer,
officer.
and that's the person who works the go-between the crews coming in
Yes.
and the emergency department staff to try and get our patients
Yes.
offloaded in as quick a time as possible to turn the vehicles
Yes.
around. So you took on that
So
post
I took
in
that at Craigavon.
Craigavon.
Um,
But you're
but
still working with all the people that you knew down
oh,
through
you're
your
still
career.
coming into contact, a different maybe dynamic, a different relationship with people. Um, people would have described it back then as the poacher turned
Turned gamekeeper.
gamekeeper kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Because a lot of it back then would have been crews taking too long over a tea break or
Yeah.
things like
Oh, yeah.
that there.
Yeah.
So when you knew all the hiding places and
Yeah.
but
You've done them yourself.
yeah, been there.
Yeah. So
It's a lot different now, mind you,
how
but
long did you work at
it
that?
wouldn't have been that long, 3, 4 months.
Because what happened?
It was a lot more physical than I thought. There was a lot of walking, a lot of standing, and really the way I am, I can't do anything in particular for too long without the pain becoming unbearable. So if I stand too long, I have to move. If I move too long, I have to sit down. If I sit too long, I have to get up. And it really wasn't working in that. It was physically, the pain was physically exhausting. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't what I joined the ambulance service to do.
Yeah.
But the pain was just, it really was eating away at me. It was really starting to get to me. So in the middle of one shift, I just decided that's it's over. And that's it.
You just decided that
Yeah.
what steps did you take?
I took a whole lot of steps from Craigavon Emergency Department over to HQ and into Mark Cochran, who was the DO at the time, and I says, Mark, I can't. I'm gonna have to retire.
So the dynamic has now changed. The
Mm.
doctor consultant is telling you you're probably never going to walk again. And you thinking, I'm not finished with the ambulance service, I'm
Yeah,
not finished with walking, I'm
yeah.
not finished. But now Aidan Early's in control of the situation.
Mm,
You're deciding
mm,
it's time to go.
mm.
Although it's down to injuries and psychology, etc. But you made the decision yourself. And once you made that decision,
But did I?
what do you mean?
I think the circumstances of my retirement were not my decision.
Whose decision?
The cancer and the surgery, that's what forced the retirement.
Yeah, it did, but in a way,
So
those things were preventing you from being able to walk again in the
yes,
consultant's eyes.
yes,
And you said no.
yeah,
But
and
now
I
you
said
knew
no.
your own body
Yeah,
and you knew it's time.
but in a way, like if that hadn't happened to me, I
Absolutely.
would never have. I would still be
You'd
working.
still
I'm
be working.
58. I would still be going.
Yeah, you would.
So yes, it was my decision,
Yes.
but it wasn't a decision
That you wanted to make
that
or
I should have
should
been
have.
taking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And once you made that decision, the process in there, well, when you left Mark, when you went home that night,
Mm,
it's all about, I find in this job, it's all about what you take home with you. You know,
yeah.
when you walked out of Mark's office, was it, should I have done that? Or when you went
There
home
was a
that
bit of
night?
that. There
Yeah.
was a bit of that. As you give it another while,
Yeah.
maybe there is something, and there's always pain relief for pain, but the degree of pain relief I would have had to take in would have probably meant that I couldn't have functioned
Yeah.
correctly. So that wasn't an option. But there is, even now, there's always a doubt that I do the right thing.
No, and there'll always be that,
Yeah.
and you'll always be second guessing. But had the wife known that you were going to walk
I
up to Mark,
I
or
rang her.
you rang her and
I
told her?
rang her and says no, and she kind of says I'm not surprised.
No.
Sort of half
Right?
expecting it someday.
And so when you got home that night, did you work a day after that, or did you come out at that
No,
stage?
that was it.
That was it.
Aye, that
So
was
you
it.
took a uniform off for the last time.
Yeah,
You talked about,
slept in it that night. No,
did you?
I took it off.
Oh, sorry, did you might have some? But you talked about when you went back in to the RV and the feeling of walking in there and the excitement.
Mm,
What was the feeling like going home that night and taking the uniform off for the last time?
yeah.
Difficult.
Aye, and did I know it was the last time? Had I even convinced myself it was the last time?
When did it become a reality for you then?
Probably the next day, yeah, when I didn't put it back on.
Hmm.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that whole retirement process in here and
The
the whole
retirement process started, and then again, the way I retired, there are obviously there's a lot of people retired through ill health, um, but my experience of retiring from NIAS was very good. I
hmm
was very well looked after. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but I have no complaints. Um, Deirdre O'Hara would have been, what was it about human resources? I can't remember
human
what department
resources.
was it. Human
Yeah.
resource, brilliant. Took me under her wing, really good with Michelle. Explained everything, did her best. I have no complaints. No
But
complaints about that at all. From it being, from my point of view, psychologically, a very, very um, intrusive thing in my life. The actual process of doing it um, has had no bad impact on me,
I
no
know it
negative
should,
impact.
and I think that would be the way that the organisation would want everybody to feel that they've
Yeah,
been dealt with properly and you
yeah.
have two great people that are working with you. And what age were you at this stage?
I would have been probably 44.
So I wanted to ask you to do another comparison. The wee lad is 7 years of age standing in Coal Island watching ambulances going by.
Uh-huh.
And then at the age of 44, having left the service, your retirement package having come through, the man standing in Armagh, living there, or
Well,
Roy, and
no,
Roy.
well,
Yeah.
Tully Sarn.
Oh, well, never heard tell of it. But, the man standing there in his mid-40s and the ambulance come by,
Yeah, still
how
wanting to
does
be in
he
it.
think?
Still wanting to be in it.
Still wanting to be in
Still
it?
right now at this moment.
He hadn't.
There was one, I met one on the motorway coming down. There was one coming up country bound. And I'm thinking, I wonder what they're going by. Well, I still want to be in the back of it. That's the honest truth, John. I
Uh,
still cannot get it out of my head that I'm not in it.
I know, but at 7 years of age, it was where you were meant to be. And even from that, you
Mm,
decided seven, and you ended up being you had the privilege to be there. But more
privilege.
importantly than that, patients had the privilege to have you early coming home.
Well,
Look, I don't think anybody watching this is not going to see the kind of person that you are.
well.
And you're an absolute credit to yourself and to your parents. I don't know whether they're still alive, but it's been an amazing story, right? Retirement came.
Hmm.
We now have a retirement association.
Yeah. There was a couple of things happened in between that. Um, Community first responders
All right.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
There was a local businessman come to me one day and said, would I be interested in starting a community first responder group?" And I'd heard of first responders, but never really knew anything about them. So there was a group of us got together and we started a group, and we called ourselves Community First Responders Armagh and Tyrone. And to me, there was a kind of a selfish reason for getting involved in it. You have all that community thing and helping people and all the rest of it. But for me, uh, it was a way of connecting again with
Yeah.
with the ambulance service.
Yeah, but it's a fine line sometimes between selfish and selfless.
Mm, mm,
There's a
mm.
lot of selflessness in there as
Yeah,
well, Ian,
yeah, yeah.
And are you still involved in that?
Still involved in it. I'll be the chair, although um, it's like anything else. It needs new blood now. It needs
Uh-huh.
new people coming through. But I'll be still the chair of it. And it's
And
grown quite a bit.
do you get called out?
There's
Do
a
you
lot
get,
of calls. Again, we're quite a big group. We spread over
but you
quite
personally,
an
do
area.
you go
Oh,
with
well,
it?
I do occasionally.
Uh-huh.
Where I am, there's not that
Yeah.
much activity. And again, if it comes in after a certain time, I'm not going to go to it. But I still have to always think, am I all right going to it? It's still that in the back of my head.
Yeah, but there's still also that adrenaline going.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
this
absolutely. Yeah.
this is what I was born to do. Where's my uniform?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but it's brilliant. And so the CFRs, yeah, doing that.
And then the Retirement Association, Peter Donnelly.
So that's what we want to really talk about
Yeah.
for a minute or two about the Retirement
Yes.
Association
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people. I'm only 35 myself, so I don't even know what it's like about thinking about it. But a lot of people coming towards the end of their careers. We get in our office, we get requests for the certificates and the plaques from people who are retiring.
Uh,
And what is life after the ambulance service like? in terms of what the Retirement Association want to make it.
Again, well, from retirement association point of view, it is that I think you used the word camaraderie earlier on. There's still that I think existing, and a lot of people who retire. Um, it is quite an intensive thing. You spend a lot of time um, on station with somebody who you're not you're
Yeah,
not
no, I
married
get
to
that.
in a
Yeah,
sense. Um,
I
so
just I'm just getting an image at the minute of dozens, maybe hundreds of retirees, just like you, standing on the street, seeing an ambulance come by, wondering where's it going to. Wish
no,
I was there.
no,
You
there's probably not. That's the
no, I would. No, I think it's in your blood. I think.
But no, I think do people do miss um the whole process
Yeah,
of getting up whatever time of the day it was
yeah,
to go to shift, to meeting the people that you're going to be working with, to hear what the people coming off duty are saying, even going out and checking the vehicle, having a routine in
yeah,
your day is a
yeah,
massive thing. So for the retirement association, hopefully allows people um to get back into contact with old colleagues, with people maybe that they haven't seen for years, with people who they never met before. Because even when I started, I would never have drifted outside of my divisional area.
yeah.
Um,
I remember years ago there was a retirement association.
uh,
It was a very, very small
yeah,
retirement association. It was about 6 or 7 people,
yeah,
and they dedicated their lives and their hours in retirement to looking after old vehicles, the really, really
yeah, yeah,
old
yeah,
vehicles.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then those
yeah.
vehicles were moved into the Ulster Transport
That's
Museum,
right. Aye.
and I don't know what happened to that association. But
Um,
what do you guys do to
but
get together?
we would organise. There are trips organised, day trips, and one of them was to the Transport Museum to
Right?
see those old vehicles.
Yeah,
And I think some of the guys that were involved in that
yeah. They came along.
are with us at the moment.
All right.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of experience in the group. But it's that time of thing. It's creating an experience for people.
Yeah,
We try to do one a month. Went to Rathlin Island. They've been up around Enniskillen. Various things. But it's that once a month where people, I'll go to that,
yeah,
and they'll organise their own uh, transport.
yeah.
We'll assist if they need assistance. We'll do whatever we're doing, and then there's a bite to eat and a bit of a jolly.
So it's a big social day.
It's a social.
And it's a
Yeah,
social event,
yeah, yeah.
but and then because I did say I would come back to this, plans for the future in terms of retirement association. You talked about memories coming back to you now that you hadn't
Mm,
dealt with in
mm,
years gone
mm.
by. You know, is there anybody, in that room, everybody sitting down around their dinner and the cracks
Mm.
plenty. There's a fair few with those memories.
There is, and I'm not sure if that will be the vehicle where that kind of talk could happen, but a massive um, part of wanting to set up the association was to provide for that aftercare
Hmm.
that is probably now required for a lot of guys. Like myself, when I joined, the troubles were coming to an end. Um, but the older guys,
Yeah,
I can't even imagine
yeah,
what they went through and probably still going through. So if we can assist in that, that would be a fantastic legacy to leave.
hmm,
That if we can set something in place where we have contact with other organisations like Wave, for example, who we can maybe access what they do to help, or whatever assistance we get through NIOS, making it easier for retirees to get
yeah,
that assistance. The peer support is a great thing, um, but that is a really big part of it for me personally.
hmm,
The social end of it is fantastic, and it does serve as a mental health
yeah.
purpose. But to actually put those hard brick things in place, that's a tremendous part of it for me.
Is there any synergy between peer support and retirement association? Any interactions at all?
There is Peter Donnelly, who was one of the originators of this association, was, I'm not sure if he still is. He certainly was
Hmm.
peer support, um, and I think Ruth Leonard was
Ruth
probably
Leonard,
peer
yeah,
support.
she was
I
peer
think Ruth
support.
was. So there is a real understanding of that
Yeah.
issue. And
Ruth and
indeed,
Emma were the first two full-time officers in the Pierce
is that
Department.
right? Well,
Yeah,
there you go. And Ruth's a lovely woman too.
yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot of talk around mental health every
Mhm.
time we meet,
Yeah.
almost. So at the moment, we're still quite a young thing. We're still trying to find our feet.
So how do people find you?
How do people find us?
Yeah.
Well, um, we have WhatsApp groups. It's really word of mouth, maybe
Mhm,
is the best way at the moment, because with GDPR and things like that, we can't get access to people's details to go to them. But what we have started doing is we have asked um, NIAS if a poster can be produced
mhm,
and that put up on every station, so that if there is someone in the station who's virgin or thinking, I think most people now, when they get to sort of retirement age, for the 2, 3 years leading up to it, they're already thinking, they're preparing. So that might be a way of allowing them to
yeah,
contact us, and there's no great, like, you don't have to. We can't force people uh, to to join or think or come to us,
yeah. Well, there's a lot of
but it's
people.
certainly something there that if
Yeah,
people feel they need it.
your circumstances around retirement were different. You know,
Oh,
there's a lot
absolutely.
of people who sit looking 2, 3, 4 years
Yeah,
out, not not being able to wait nearly to get retired.
yeah,
And I think that after that, for some, there's a wee honeymoon period. Oh, it's brilliant. They're out golfing every day of the week. But then you only golf so many times. And then I
absolutely.
think that maybe after a year or so, they start thinking
Yeah,
about what their career was. Not so much about the ambulance service itself, not about the bureaucracy around it, but the actual job that they
yeah,
did and the assistance, the difference they made in people's lives.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it must be great to be able to reach out and speak with like-minded people, you know.
Aye, yeah,
So look, I
absolutely.
know that in our own department, you talk about posters. There's somebody sitting in the room with us at the minute who's very adept at making posters, and we'll sort that out. And I'm just wondering if in a retirement pack, as I say, I'm not really looking forward to mine until I'm more 30 odd years or so. But you know, if a retirement pack is there a wee leaflet that can go to keep that
I
information.
don't
But
think
we'll
we
we'll
have a
talk about
I
that.
don't think we have a leaflet as such, but
Mhm,
we have had the idea of maybe uh, one or two of us working alongside NIAS
mhm,
to help people through the retirement
yeah,
process
yeah,
from the other side.
yeah. No,
So there's that to it as well. Plus, then there's things like, which I think are equally as important. If someone who has served passes away, I think there needs to be uh, a representation.
mhm,
Ambulance service do it. They'll have the guard of honor or whatever. But as a retired person, I arrive in my own suit, and I
yeah,
don't feel like I belong,
yeah, yeah.
and that this person, what connection do I have?
No,
And
yeah,
I want to show that connection because I'm proud of it.
and
So from that point of view, we would hope maybe at some point to get some kind of a formal uniform that can be
yeah.
worn at the like of a funeral or at the arboretum and things like that. There with services being represented, we still, many of us feel we want to be.
No, absolutely. And as you said, it's still a young
Mm.
organisation, the
Oh, it's
Retirement
still finding its
Association,
feet.
and it's
Yeah, yeah.
about baby steps and moving
Hmm.
forward. And there's absolutely no problem about having these plans and having, speaking to the open doors that you have. I know you
Hmm.
do have a number of open doors
Oh,
in
we
your
do. Yeah,
organisation
yeah.
and floating the ideas, and hopefully it'll work out and the organisation will go from strength to strength. Can I just say, Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I know we said it would only be half an hour, but I doubted whether I could do it half an hour. You doubted whether we could do it in half an hour, and we didn't do it in half an hour. But I think that anybody watching this show is going to see, firstly, how unassuming you are. Um, I hope it's got an insight into the care that you have given to people, the way in which you have served this organisation and the public of the areas that you come from, with great honour and great dignity. And that 7-year-old boy had his dream realised. The only dream that wasn't realised, the only miracle that didn't happen, you're walking again, but the only miracle that didn't happen is Man United having won the Premiership. So I'm still waiting for that one myself. But honestly, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, man.
John, thank you.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
was a pleasure here today. My time in the service was a pleasure, and you used the word privilege earlier on. Absolute privilege.
Right. Well, don't be a stranger. We'll catch up again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Okay. So there you go. That's I'm blown away by that chat we had with Aidan. and I hope that you have got something out of it too. Life goes on after the ambulance service, but it's in the blood. It's in the blood, and it never leaves the people who serve in it. And I wish them all very long and lengthy retirements. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and that you tune in again next week. And until then, please stay safe. Thank you.